how that goes. I wanted us to talk about this briefly, but I don't know how. The subject of the political parties, having submitted your positions to the Electoral Commission, following concerns that were raised, especially by the MPP and also other civil society organizations, which ultimately were being told by the Electoral Commission Public Affairs Directorate, that we've had the party submitted, and also even some civil society and pressure groups also submitting. I want to start with you, George. What do you make of it? Because it's got to do with the state of our electoral register, whether we need to have a new one, etc.
I think that there are two major schools of thought. The MPP says we need a fresh voters register. The NDC says no. If at anything at all, we just need to look at what we have currently and see if we can work on it. Because they believe, and then NDC believes that no amount of voter registration will clean the mess that we have. You remember that we've had minors always as part of it. Both parties are doing it. So really, if you say because one minor is detected here, or that somebody or
but that's not a good thing.
Yeah, but the point is that we don't cure that by every time having a new register, because
well, it can be cured if we know we all want to monitor, etc.
Please. The fact is that if it is one party that you know is, I mean, these things are political gerrymandering that every party does, and it won't change today, it won't change tomorrow.
No, but it needs to change.
Rather, when it comes, the EC itself had a process. When we were candidates, you remember Jafferjan went around, he showed us pictures of minors that they had seen and how they try to resolve those matters. But you see, in the compilation, you have an MPP agent, you have an agent sitting at the polling station, and yet they register minors. So NDC says that the issue is not about the voters register being done new, but let's look at what we have, and let's see how we can
cleanse it.
There are other things that they've said, but I think that will allow, I'm sure that IPAC would be constituted to work at it. So let's allow the system, the process. I haven't seen what civil society has presented. I haven't even seen the MPP one, the NDC one. I've just glanced through a few things that has been said. So I think that it's early days yet. We should allow the EC to see which direction he wants to go with the support of IPAC. I'm sure that will come to a compromise at a certain point, and whatever decision that needs to be done or be taken will be taken.
Joe, as you make your comment on that, at the end of the day, is that if we look at the outcome of the last election, it means that we need to make sure that we get it right this time.
Certainly, and I'm on all fours with the two fathers, and who says that the cost of doing it right can never be more expensive than if there's uproar.
And you have to deal with it.
You know. But you see, when you mix sand with sugar, cleaning it is going to be very, very difficult. George mentioned that last 2012, the Electoral Commission said they were going to clean it. They came, and when they finished, the register was more than it started from. So what kind of cleaning increased the number? And some matters came up as to even what is the number on the electoral roll as we speak. The Electoral Commission himself used two different figures. It came out in the Supreme Court ruling that for the presidential election, the number you used to declare the results is different from the number you used to declare the parliamentary. How is it can we have one register? Now, how did it happen that you said you're doing foreign registration of 700,000 people, and when you're asked to provide the list, you provide less than 1/100th? You know? So, and then some of the evidence that the MPP have shown, that indeed there are some data in there that couldn't have been obtained at any polling station.
In real time, you say?
In real time, that is. When you have evidence of clips on a photo when the thing was real time. And there's something that happened in my constituency.
Why?
Yes, there's a small town called Sebedia.
Sebedia,
just before Kokofu. The electoral register there has a little over 400. The Electoral Commission came with over 200 of them who said they are double, that registered double. At the time that exhibition came, the girl who was manning said that this cannot be possible. It's not possible that all these people here registered double. But our attention was not drawn to the fact that
so it means that those people needed to be taken out of register, you say?
Yes, and they were not permitted to vote at the last assembly elections.
Because they voted double?
And but let me finish. You know what happened? It was when they were refused the permission to vote. Indeed, some of them had actually been prosecuted and convicted. It turned out that it was no fault of theirs. One of the young men who came on said, listen, when they did the registration and gave me my card, I saw that the date of issuing the registration card was 1980. 1980.
So you are saying genuine mistakes?
And he said he drew the attention of the officer there, then.
Then they gave him a new one.
Your card that you're giving me, he said, well, we have instructions not to touch the machine, so I can't do anything about it. At the time, he didn't bring it to anybody's attention. And in 2012, all those people voted. Then come 2013, 2014, he said, all of you, you have double registered. And then we took the registers and compared all the 200. The first date of registration was 1980. And half of them, 1980, they were not born. So you're saying
they are genuine. But if we have genuine administrative problems and technical difficulties, they can be easily resolved.
Wait, how did the 1980 go into the data?
Well, because
1980 there was no registration in the country.
If you ask me, I was reporting on the ground at the time. We had deployed new gadgets, and we had configured gadgets for which even the personnel that are supposed to man them were not very much conversant with them. And so, genuinely, just like the way you deploy new technology or software to any company, whether it's an ERP software, etc., you genuinely tend to face problems. And we should say, as a country, we wanted a biometric sort of register.
I agree.
And so we embarked on that very exercise.
Right.
At a point in time when the interaction in terms of the manipulation processes of the technical people and the machine is not in sync, you are likely to face these difficulties. At what point do we have to do these interpretations and say there are genuinely problems, and so as a result of that we need to have a new register?
Listen, I don't know how many other communities may have experienced this.
Well, we may have several, but I'm saying that if it is that we have one polling station, we have identified these, and we can do audit of each of the polling stations, then we generally go and look at the data, we do syncing of the data, and say these are the problems we have, and so we take them out. Why do we have to go and start a new process of having new tenders, new machines and technology being deployed, and then new registration processes and timelines?
How is the cleaning done? Who does it? Where?
Well, you have agents.
The cleaning?
You have, yes, you have agents.
No.
You come and display.
No.
You make sure you follow up the technology that will weed it out. Well, it should be done. And I think that will cost us less than deployment and sending people out and doing all that.
I think money should never be a part of the considerations when we're talking about these things. But you see, I'm talking about cleaning. You did the exhibition and they said, oh, these names should be taken out. Right? Somebody else, somewhere, how he does it or he does not do it, you don't know.
So you're saying it's also subject to manipulation?
Of course.
Okay.
And otherwise, how did we come to...
And new registration is not subject to manipulation? That's even subject to extreme manipulation.
No, that one is, like George said, the probability or possibility that the actors on the ground will manipulate the system
is low.
That is not as dangerous as when the manipulation is done at a place where nobody else, nobody knows, nobody understands. You get me?
Yeah.
You know, otherwise...
Yeah, but just for me...
Otherwise, how come we don't have the data of the 700,000 people that were registered abroad? How come...
Because they presented genuine concerns for Ghanaians when the process was ongoing, right. The election petition.
Right. And then, otherwise, how do we, when you're going to clean it, remove names that ought not to be there from it, it should be less. It becomes more. How can that be explained? And that is not done in the open like we're doing registration. Okay. But you see, the reform is comprehensive. The request for reform is comprehensive. And a new register is only one of the processes And the ultimate is a credible register. In the end, if we leave room
for doubt,
we are only truncating our democratic success or undermining the legitimacy.
George, it makes a lot of sense. We just go in, make sure we do the deployment right, the right technology, we do the proper monitoring, and then we register new people.
Yeah, that's cool. It sounds very cool.
Yes, on book.
And I'm saying that
it's
yes,
and the media will go around and monitor, and nobody does anything.
The point
untoward.
is that, you see, this is not the first time we are calling for a new voters register. We've called for it over and over and over again. We've provided it over and over and over again. He hasn't solved the problem. But you see, where I disagree with Joe Wise is that if, for instance, we're going to bring some people from space, so that when we have done all the registration and everything, we are sure that those people will not end up doing anything, then you can talk about credibility. But why? When we finish, the same people who are being said to have manipulated, or the thing ends up with them again. It ends up with the data is the preserved and is in the custody of the Electoral Commission. So I don't see where that comes to play, because if it's going back to them, if indeed you are saying that they manipulated, they can manipulate again. If you compile a new one, they can manipulate again. No, please.
But at the end of the day, you have hindsight.
I am saying that, you see, when you are talking about hindsight, do we really understand what is happening?
Why not?
We are only conjecturing.
At the end of the day, if we didn't understand, we wouldn't have come to where we are
Roland,
today.
I am saying, and I'm saying it on authority, anybody can take me on, but that is my personal opinion, that if people are saying that there was double registration, that people from Togo and things, if there were 700,000, I can assure you that if they do the registration again, they may end up with 2 million people. You see, these things, we've done it for so long, since the 90s, these things have happened. Like the issue that he raised about 1980 and things like that, I think that he has evidence. We should all assist the Electoral Commission with this kind of evidence to look particularly into some of these things. And the biometric registration that we are doing as NDC, I am amazed, because you know what? You know they did the first one, the first registration, so then later on they open it up. If you know the number of people who register in the first place, when you go back to the person and say, oh, I haven't registered, you register again. In fact, they did a third mop-up. Some people have registered
because
again.
you've not done the education well. And
no,
that's what the stakeholders always blame the Electoral Commission.
What I'm
but
saying,
that's where we have to
really,
enter.
that is it.
That's what we have to. And in the studio today, Judge Lowe, a member of Parliament for North Dine, thanks for joining me this morning.
Thank you.
And Joe Wise is a member of Parliament. Thanks for joining me, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Okay, we're taking a break.